All right, today we're going to talk about something that's kind of like a superpower you use every single day without even realizing it. It's called inductive reasoning, and it's basically the art of making a really, really good guess.
I mean, really think about that for a second. How do you know? You haven't seen Camaro, have you? Of course not. You know because it's come up every single day of your life, and every day before that. You're using a pattern to make a prediction. And that assumption, that educated guess, that's the heart and soul of inductive reasoning. It's how we navigate a world where nothing is 100% guaranteed.
So where does a journey like this even start? Well, it all kicks off with something super simple. Just opening your eyes and looking around.
Okay, so observation. Sounds simple, right? But check out this definition. It's not just about passively looking. It calls it raw data acquisition. That's a fancy way of saying we're actively gathering clues, collecting the little pieces of evidence that become the bedrock for everything else we're about to build.
And this is where our brains do something truly incredible. We are basically pattern-matching machines, right? We take all those little observations, all those bits of data, and we instinctively start connecting the dots. We start seeing structured regularities. This is that magic moment, where a bunch of random facts suddenly starts to look like a coherent picture.
And all of this starting small and building up has a name. It's called bottom-up logic, and it's so important to get this. We're not starting with some grand theory and trying to prove it. No. We're starting on the ground floor with the tiny specific details and building our way up to a bigger idea.
Okay, so we've observed, we found a pattern, and now comes the really cool part. This is where we do something kind of brave. We take a leap. We go from just seeing what's there to proposing a rule for how things work. This is like the perfect example to show how it works. Let's walk through it. Step 1, you see a swan. It's white. Simple enough. Step 2, you see more swans, 100 of them, and hey, they're all white too. You've spotted a pattern. So you take the leap. Step 3, you generalize. All swans must be white. And boom, that's your theory. That's your working model of the world, built from the bottom up.
That jump, that move from the swans I've seen to all swans everywhere, that's the logical leap. And I love how this is phrased here, an unavoidable but manageable jump. It's not a flaw in our thinking, it's the essential creative spark that allows us to move from the known into the great unknown.
Right, so generalization is the official name for what we just did. We're taking what we learned from our little sample size, our 100 swans, and we're stretching it to cover every single swan out there. You can see how this is just absolutely fundamental to building any new theory about anything.
But, and this is a big but, there's a catch. This incredibly powerful tool, it's not perfect. It has some real risks. And honestly, knowing its limits is just as important as knowing its strengths.
And this slide is where it all clicks. Let's break down the difference. Inductive reasoning, what we've been talking about, is bottom-up. It's all about probability and uncertainty. It's for building new theories. But then you have its cousin, deductive reasoning. That's top-down. It starts with a big rule, like all humans are mortal, and gets more specific to reach a guaranteed conclusion, like Socrates is human, so he's mortal. One builds, the other proves. And that leads us straight to this idea of fallibility. It just means you can be wrong, and that's okay. Your theory that all swans are white is a great working model, right up until the moment you see a black swan. And poof, the theory has to change. It's a feature, not a bug, right? It's how we learn and get smarter.
Okay, so because this whole process is built on uncertainty, it's really easy to fall into a trap. One of the biggest traps in all of logic, actually.
It's called hasty generalization, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's when you make that big logical leap way too early. You see one white swan, and you shout, "Aha, all swans are white." You've just jumped the gun, basing a huge conclusion on way too little evidence, and your whole argument is built on shaky ground.
So, okay, we've talked about the risks, the uncertainty, the chance of being wrong. You might be thinking, why on earth do we even use this thing? Well, the answer's simple. Without it, we'd be stuck. We could never discover anything new.
And I absolutely love this phrase. Inductive reasoning is the epistemic engine behind scientific discovery. Think about that for a second. Every single major scientific breakthrough, gravity, evolution, you name it, it all started with someone observing the world, seeing a pattern nobody else did, and making a bold, inductive leap.
And it's not just for scientists in white lab coats, you know?
Look at this list. Strategic management? That's just induction with spreadsheets. Policy analysis? Trying to figure out what works based on past data. Machine learning is basically induction on steroids. And of course, just our own everyday decisions. It is absolutely everywhere.
You know, this quote just wraps it all up so perfectly. Inductive reasoning is fundamentally a risk-managed epistemology. Epistemology is just a fancy word for how we know things. So this is a way of knowing, a way of building knowledge that accepts that there's risk involved. It's all about managing that risk to push the boundaries of what we understand.
So, from now on, when you make one of those educated guesses, you try a new coffee shop because it has a few good reviews, or you just expect the sun to come up tomorrow, you'll know what you're doing. You're using one of the most powerful and fundamental tools your brain has. So the real question is, what logical leap are you going to take today?